What's the best DPS spec to play? It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? Besides it being DPS, there's technically 4 different damage types. There's many, many different ways to actually play. So Tim Allen, what's the sort of gameplay style that you're looking for? In terms of, like, are you trying to be a close range DPS spec? Are you just trying to PvE? Are you going for PvP? Do you like doing raid versus raid? Do you like focusing on 1v1? You know, those sort of questions are important when it comes to answering something like that. Because there's quite a few ways you can play this game and enjoy it. But I know that also overcomplicates the question. You're looking to demolish people. I want to press the delete key and erase people. So, to be fair, you could actually... so let's say you play Melee, for example. You could bind some of your craziest keys to delete if you really want to do that. If you really want to feel powerful, and you get up close to somebody, and you just want to precision strike someone, and you bind your precision strike key, which is an ability that does quite a heavy amount of damage, depending on positioning. You push your delete key, and then they actually die. That would be pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. Now, that said, it sounds like you want a more bursty kind of build, where you want to do the damage very straight up front, in a very short period of time, and then maybe want to escape to some way, or in some way in order to recover the cooldowns on those skills in order to then catch somebody else, right? These kind of builds are very focused on killing off very specific people in raid versus raid combat, such as healers, or specific DPS people who need to get taken down first. And the whole point is that you're very good at that one specific thing, of taking down a very specific person. Those builds are absolutely important. You don't see them as much in raid versus raid right now because of how powerful mages tend to be with AoE abilities. However, it still exists. Is Melee the best class to play? So, I mean, there's a few ways to look at it, because you can get some really, really good burst DPS with any kind of archetype, to be fair. Archers technically can do it because they don't even need to get close to their targets, so they're able to focus down somebody non-stop pretty much with almost nobody bothering them. However, the actual damage they do at the moment is quite a bit smaller, and their targets have to be very, very specific. Like, an archer going for somebody in plate is just not going to be able to do very much. So you have to pick your targets well. But you have more time because you are much farther away from combat. A mage, on the other hand, has a lot of different varieties of playing. Mages that are long-range mages have cast time, and so they have to kind of prepare combos and get different debuffs and buffs to happen in a very specific order in order to maximize damage on a specific target from range. Plus, they have to actually make sure that the cast times go off and everything works out properly. So there's a bit more of a preparation with a lot of mages. There's also a lot of close-range mages, or just fast gameplay mages, that usually involve taking Malediction as a skill tree. Those ones work pretty well, but they're usually an AoE-focused build to be able to do damage to multiple targets, which is still really good, especially depending on the gear that you have. Close-range mages also may take advantage of something like Witchcraft skill set in order to actually crowd control a bunch of people. A way that I would like to play at some point, just to try and mess around with, is to play a close-range mage spec with Witchcraft to be able to essentially crowd control everybody else just to be able to kill a specific person, right? Now that nobody else can help them. So that's definitely still a way to play. Meanwhile, melees tend to be the very specific, good at burst damage types, and now with Swiftblade can also be sustainable damage types, where you constantly are able to do something. But there's a lot of bursty types of melees, too, with two-handed weapons that are just maximizing in damage as much as they can to kill a specific target. But however, melees are, of course, the most risky, because they have to be not only up front and in melee range of the target, but if you're in melee range of your target, especially in raid versus raid, you are now in range of absolutely everybody else in the enemy raid. So playing as a melee is going to be tough, because you still have to have some amount of survivability in order to be able to do what it is you're trying to do. And so, all of these different gameplay styles are perfectly valid, right? It just comes down to how you want to play yourself. What are you most interested in? What's the kind of, what damage type do you want to do? What sort of things are you trying to do? Because even melees have to, melees and archers, and it doesn't matter what damage type you do, you have to worry about combos to maximize damage. You have to worry about positioning, where you are versus where everybody else is. What debuffs and buffs are happening on the battlefield, and you learn these this sort of combat awareness over time. But my point is that you can pretty much choose anything and have fun with it. And if you're going for something specifically with burst, you can definitely make builds for it too, if that's the sort of kind of gameplay you're looking for. But all of them are pretty good. They're all good for farming. They're all good for, you know, actually leveling up and doing content. So you can't really go wrong with it. Tim Allen, what trees should I play if I want to be highly valuable to my guild? I mean, it depends what your guild has, right? You really can't, again, you can't really go wrong. For example, you could even, like, while you're leveling up and doing stuff, and I really highly recommend this, because people don't do this as much as they should, but I really, really highly recommend doing some kind of a backline support build. So not a frontline support like a tank, and not a healer, because a healer is a healer. But a support is really a support, and it's really undervalued because people don't tend to play this class, these kind of classes. But they're some of the most important ones. So while you're leveling up or while you're trying to figure out what you want to do, at any gear score, you can play something that is a backline support. Something like a Dreambreaker, or like what I play, the Eidolon, or anything, really. Anything that essentially involves picking skill sets to buff everybody around you, while debuffing opponents and causing problems for opponents and keeping allies alive. And I've been playing Eidolon recently because it's been a lot of fun. It keeps people alive. I rarely ever die in this build, or I tend to be the last person who dies. And the benefits of it are absolutely insane. It's better than having just one single DPS. You might want to have some people like this, who also are in the battlefield helping everybody and also just crowd controlling people. It's an extremely, extremely powerful class. It doesn't do DPS. The whole point is to enable the people around you to be able to do DPS. And it's also good for new players because you start to understand the game from the backlines, and you have a chance to actually sort of understand, you know, what you should be doing, the positioning, where you should be, where everybody else should be, and that sort of thing, while you're learning the game, while you're, you know, leveling up and getting the gear that you actually want. I got a lucky with 382. I'm surprised the 382 is actually a lucky. We'll keep fishing. But this is just an example of something that I've been playing recently, and I bring it up because nobody else really plays these kinds of classes from the back lines. A lot of people play something like a Dreambreaker from the front lines as a tank, where they want to get attacked. So they'll take other skills to be able to, like, grab attention, whereas I don't want to get attacked, and I actually keep myself from getting attacked with a lot of this, while defending the people around me, while shutting down people from range. It's actually been a lot of fun to play this because of the fact that nobody else has been. So because I'm one of the only ones that do actually play like Eidolon, it's really fun. Whereas my most fun skill tree, like the most fun kind of gameplay that I enjoy, is still playing as a melee with Swiftblade for sustainable damage instead of burst damage, where I can just keep constantly doing stuff. This has been a really, really fun second kind of class to play. So just an idea. I really do hope more people play this kind of gameplay style, because everybody complains, oh, I can't compete in PvP until I get to the end game and get all the top gear, but that's not true at all, because there are different gameplay styles you can still do and contribute massively, sometimes better than any DPS could, because you're enabling your other DPSs to do damage, you're enabling your healers to be safe, you're enabling people to, you know, not get silenced if you're using protective wings on your allies. And so, you know, don't be afraid to try out different kinds of gameplay. The big problem is when... Wait, where's this fish? Where's my fish? Hold on. Is it over there? It is over here. Oh, there it is. The big problem is when, like, guilds say, oh, you can't play that class, that's useless, right? When, in reality, there's no class that's necessarily useless. There's just classes that have different strengths and weaknesses. And so... But people are so close-minded, they don't understand things outside of DPS, tank, and healer. They think there's nothing else that exists. When in reality, support classes need to be a thing, right? Other regions do support classes way more often than NA/EU does. Like, other regions, you'll see all the time, all over the place, health lift constantly getting popped, protective wings always going off, classes who are constantly abusing witchcraft, and yet in NA/EU you just don't see it as much, which is really unfortunate, because you see how fun the battles are in the other regions, how long they go for. And there's various reasons for that, but it's also the closed-mindedness that you see from NA/EU, which is really unfortunate, that devalue these kind of classes, when in reality they're more powerful than any DPS could be, especially in a raid versus raid environment. And especially for people who are just kind of learning the game and getting into it. So, I know I can't give you any concrete answers, Tim and I don't tend to do that. My answers do tend to be kind of, you gotta think for yourself and come up with your own build. And the reason for that is because Archeage is significantly more fun when you are creating something for yourself, instead of, hey, can I get a build to play? Hey, can I get a class to play? Hey, can you tell me what to do? Because if here, I increased my quality again because Cody's not screaming in the background. But my point is that, you know, the people who ask for things, who say, just give me a build and I'll play it, or whatever, they are not thinking for themselves, and they'll just end up quitting really quickly because they're not there to play for years. They're only there to play for a couple of months, try out the game, and then end up quitting for some reason. But if you actually do play for yourself, create your own builds, do your own thing, you'll have a lot more fun. You'll want to play for longer term, and it'll feel a lot better in general. And so I always try to, you know, keep people open-minded with that stuff. Ooh, 420.64. Ah, very close. Very close to the length that it could have ended on. But 420.64 isn't too bad.